Electric vehicles are on the rise because of the Biden administration forcing, and charging stations seem like the next big thing. You'd think with little operating costs and high markups, EV charging stations would be extremely lucrative. But the reality is that every public EV charging company is losing money. Why is a business that seems so profitable on the surface hemorrhaging cash? Stay tuned as we uncover the surprisingly unprofitable economics behind electric vehicle charging. With the rise of electric cars, there are opportunities not only for manufacturers but also for companies that build the infrastructure needed to help build a fully electric future. One of the major issues that electric cars face is their limited reach. If you plan to take long-distance road trips, you must find a place at every turn for recharging your battery. One option is to provide roadside charging stations that have super quick chargers. Drivers of electric vehicles can stop and charge their batteries within 20 to 30 minutes and be headed off. The idea of creating charging stations is an excellent business idea. After paying the initial cost of purchasing charging stations and putting them in place, the cost per year is likely to be negligible. The customer makes use of an app for charge and there's no need for staff. If you can charge a significant markup over your electricity expenses, and this is the case, it is a highly profitable business. In 2020 and 2021, a few EV charging firms went public, combining with SPACs. They've all had a disastrous experience and their shares dropping by 70 to 80%, and each of them has lost money. Let's begin with EVgo, which is the largest EV charging business in the US according to market capitalization, as well as the number of charging stations for electric vehicles that are owned by. They currently have 3,000 charging stations and have over 900 locations throughout the US. Retail customers pay around 40 cents per kilowatt hour of charging. This is about a 2 to 3 times increase over the amount EVgo charges for electricity. Additionally, there's a set fee that is $1 for every session and an additional fee of $3 when you wish to reserve a charging space before the time you want to use the app. The majority of electric vehicles come with a battery of around 60 kW, and it will cost around $24 to top your battery, but it can differ based on the time of the day. Add in the session and the reservation fee will cost you around $28 per charge. The charging stations of EVgo work with all models of electric vehicles, but for some models, you'll need an adapter. You can also purchase a monthly fee to receive an exclusive amount of free sessions per month, but you must pay per kilowatt hour. Apart from selling directly to consumers, they also have agreements with fleet owners. For instance, they have agreements with Uber and Lyft that offer discounted electric rates for drivers. They also have agreements with a few automakers. For instance, GM pays EVgo to offer reduced rates for GM electric vehicles. They also offer and install charging stations for third-party customers. For instance, the gasoline station chain Pilot Flying J has purchased EVgo charging stations for a few of their locations. Pilot Flying J keeps the income from charging stations, and they pay EVgo a fee for maintenance on a regular basis. In addition, they earn a small amount of revenue through government subsidies. Subsidies account for approximately 10% of their revenues. The great thing about charging electric stations is that they don't require staff members in contrast to a traditional gasoline station. There aren't any gas tanks that have to be filled up. Once the charger is connected, it does the work. Customers pay via the app and then plug the charger cable into their car by themselves. The majority of EV charging stations are charged a markup that is approximately the cost of their electricity. With the low operating costs and the high markup, it appears that electric charging stations will make a lot of money. However, there are additional factors to consider. It is possible to imagine EV charging stations similar to vending machines. The cost of running vending machines is very low. However, if you place your vending machine in the middle of a road that receives only a tiny amount of traffic, you may only sell a couple of bags of chips per month. At this rate, it's not worthwhile to drive to the machine to collect the coins. On the other side, if you place your machine in a crowded location, you can sell lots of chips, but you will also have to pay rent to the person who owns the real estate, and this could eat up the majority of your earnings. For EV charging, it's even worse. Due to their high usage, EV chargers wear out quite quickly. Based on EVgo's regulatory filings, they have depreciated their EV charging devices in accordance with an estimated lifespan of between 3 and 7 years. Therefore, while the contribution margin could be extremely high, you must earn enough money to cover your maintenance and rental costs and pay the investment back in the charging equipment before it needs to be replaced. In addition to the decline from 2020 because of the pandemic, the revenue of EVgo per charging station has been steadily growing. It is because of the increased use of electric cars. The more EVs are in use, the higher the need for charging. In the first 9 months of 2023, they had a positive gross profit of $2,500 per stall, which is still just 6% of their revenue. It's not enough to cover the company's expenses. Since charging stalls are spread across the entire space and there isn't any personnel present, it could take an extended period to recognize the moment a charging stall is not working properly and send someone all the way to repair it. This increases the prices of the products sold. A study conducted by the University of California at Berkeley found that at any one moment, more than 25% of EV charging stations were not working. For EVgo specifically, 73% of stalls functioning. ChargePoint was even worse, with just 61% of the stalls operating. This is a problem for two reasons. It is obvious that if the charging stall isn't functioning, it won't generate any revenue. Furthermore, a lot of the state subsidies that they get are dependent upon the minimum amount of uptime. If they don't get their act together, they could be in danger of losing the subsidy. In the past year, EVgo announced a plan to increase its maintenance and outage detection efforts. This will increase revenue but also mean more maintenance costs. Due to the high cost of maintenance, margins for electric vehicles are very low and not enough to fund their overheads. As a result, they're losing money. Keep in mind that one of the main claimed advantages of charging stations that are electric in comparison to traditional gas stations is that unlike gas stations that require staff to be always on hand, electric charging stations are self-serviced. What advantage is that? We can look at the financial results of EVgo against Murphy USA, which is a publicly traded gas station business. In the first 9 months of 2023, Murphy made around $420,000 from gasoline pumps. Of that, approximately 20% came from selling gasoline, while 20% was from food sales at the convenience store. Food sold in convenience stores offers better profit margins than gasoline and, therefore, about 1/3 of their gross profits were derived from convenience stores while 2/3 of that came from fuel. In all, they earned nearly $40,000 in gross profit for each fuel station. The cost of operating the store isn't that expensive. Although there is always at the very least one employee, each gas station is home to around 8 pumps for gasoline. Even if there are 2 employees at the store, it's only 1 person per 4 pumps, and they don't make this much. Therefore, the fixed cost of running the store was just $19,000 per pump, which is less than 5% of the revenue. Depreciation and corporate overhead costs were also extremely low. In all, Murphy made about $188,000 of operating profit per pump during the first 9 months of the year. EVgo earned $45,000 in revenue per charging station in the same time frame, around 1/10 of the amount Murphy earned per gas pump. Gross margins were significantly smaller at around 5% of revenue. To be fair, the gross profit figures aren't comparable since maintenance and depreciation are included in the cost of the goods sold by EVgo, while they're part of the overhead costs for Murphy. But what's truly striking concerning EVgo is their $42,000 in general, selling, and administration costs per charge station. This is nearly the same amount as their revenue. Due to the difficulties of managing such a huge number of charging stalls across the globe and also providing support for customers who don't know how to operate their devices, the operations of EVgo are extremely complicated. This requires a lot of customer and administrative service employees. If anything, they require even more administrative and customer service staff, since their average score is 1.4 out of 5 stars on Yelp. Customers complain of frequent outages, difficulties in reserving their charging stations, and generally poor support for customers. The most important thing to remember is that for an EV charging business to succeed, they will have to dramatically increase their revenue for each charging station. Despite the adulation of media about EVs, yet they only make up a small fraction of the cars that are on the road. In 2023, it's believed that 8% of the new vehicles within the US will be completely electric. However, cars last longer, about 12 years on average, so even if 100% of new cars became electric in a matter of minutes, it would take 12 years to convert all cars on the road to become electric vehicles. Today, less than 1% of registered vehicles in the US are electric vehicles. This percentage will rise in the future, which will lead to more people to charging stations. However, there are some arguments to think that electric vehicle charging stations might not make as much money as gas stations. First, if you own an internal combustion engine vehicle, you'll need to purchase gasoline at the gas station, and there's no other alternative to refill your tank. However, this isn't the case with electric vehicles. It is possible to charge your car from home. If you're diligent about tracking your miles, you might never have to make use of the charging station. The cost-effectiveness of charging at home is among the main selling points of electric vehicles. Charging your electric vehicle at a charging point costs more per mile than the price of gasoline for internal combustion engines in a vehicle. Even if all vehicles were to transition to electric vehicles tomorrow, most likely, there would be less need for charging stations than there is for gas stations. The second issue is the fact that it takes about 30 minutes to charge your electric vehicle. Let's say it costs $28 to recharge your battery. EVgo earns $18 in contribution profits. If the charging station is at its maximum capacity, it can make $36 of contribution profits per hour. It only takes a couple of minutes to fill your vehicle at a gas station. One pump could fill up dozens of cars in a single hour, which means the contribution and revenue per hour of pumping is much greater than what electric vehicle charging stations could expect to achieve. Electric vehicle adoption will rise in the coming years because of government forces. It is probable that in our lives, EVs will make up the majority of vehicles on the roads. There will be several companies benefiting from this shift. But that doesn't mean every EV-related company or sector will be successful. It seems that charging stations are likely to be among the less profitable EV strategies. So there you have it, the hidden economics behind the EV charging industry that shows why it's been such a money-losing business so far. Charging stations face hurdles from low utilization to expensive maintenance that gas stations don't, making profitability a huge challenge. What do you think? Can EV charging stations ever become as lucrative of a business as traditional gas stations? Will utilization increase enough over time for these companies to make money? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you got value from this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.